Trivia List presents musicians who should have stayed away from airplanes. Everyone admires rock stars. They're popular, good-looking, and love to party hard. But living La Vida Loca comes at a high price, and many rock stars die young, beautiful, and soaked in vomit. For instance, Amy Winehouse declared, "I ain't going to rehab," and subsequently died of a drug overdose. But today's list is about dead musicians who never made it to rehab in the first place. These are 8 musicians killed in plane crashes. For number 1, who out there remembers Aaliyah? Well, if you're a 90s kid, then just thinking about Aaliyah's sexy yet angelic voice will get your remember berries all juiced up. Born in 1979, Aaliyah was a singer, actress, and model who sold 32 million albums worldwide. She began her career at age 10, but things really took off at age 15 with the release of her smash debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Yeah, the album's title becomes a bit creepier when you know that her producer, R. Kelly, yeah, that R. Kelly, married 15-year-old Aaliyah illegally while recording it. Yeah. But it would take more than a pee-pee pedo with dope beats to hold back Aaliyah's career. No, it would take a drunk, coked-up pilot and an overweight plane in the Bahamas. In 2001, after filming a music video, Aaliyah's inebriated pilot took them up in a twin-engine Cessna. By the way, never get in a Cessna. The plane only made it 200 feet before it hit the ground and exploded. Aaliyah was just 22 at the time. Other than her music, you can check out Aaliyah's kung fu film with Jet Li called Romeo Must Die. It's pretty rad. Our number 2-y who went kablooey is iconic southern rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd. The band was strongly associated with the Confederate battle flag, which they literally wrapped themselves in during performances. So, when you see Dixie on the back window of somebody's truck, you can ask yourself, is this person a Skynyrd fan, and do I care? The band from Jacksonville, Florida became a smash hit with songs like Sweet Home Alabama and Free Bird. But sadly, they became a literal smash hit when their plane crashed in Mississippi in 1977. Lead singer Ronnie Van Zant, as well as Steve Gaines and Cassie Gaines, were all killed on impact. The crash happened 3 days after the release of their soon-to-be platinum album, Street Survivors. Maybe they should have called it Sky Survivors. From Sweet Home Alabama to the country roads of West Virginia. Number 3 on our list is another guy who loved to sing about places, folk legend John Denver. Denver achieved massive success in the 1970s with hit songs such as Take Me Home Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High, and Sunshine on My Shoulders. However, unlike Lynyrd, whose crash happened at the height of their career, Denver lived long enough to see his songs become staples of 70s folk compilations and soundtracks to come-of-age teen dramas. His 1966 song Leavin' on a Jet Plane inaccurately presaged his death from a propeller plane crash in 1996. He was 53. Number 4 on our list is a soul legend in the same class as Aretha Franklin and James Brown. His name is Otis Redding. Born in 1941 in Gray, Georgia, Redding would become one of the biggest soul and R&B stars of the 1960s. His hit song, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, would become the first ever #1 hit by a deceased person on the Hot 100 chart. It was while touring with his band, the Bar-Kays, that Otis Redding boarded an ill-advised flight to Madison, Wisconsin. James Brown told Redding, "Don't get on that plane," but he did anyway. On December 9th, 1967, Redding's plane dove into a lake near Madison, killing him and all but one of his bandmates. The next 3 are going to come pretty quick, because this 1959 plane crash took out 3 famous artists all at once. In a moment, we'll tell you how a coin toss decided who lived and who died. But first, our number 5 fatality to be is Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly was an icon of the 1950s rock and roll scene. He got his break opening for Elvis, and his hit songs That'll Be the Day and Peggy Sue reigned at the top of the charts. Buddy Holly was lucky to start his rock career when he did, as the 1950s was probably the only time you could dress like bar mitzvah boy in dad's suit, and the girls still thought you were sexy. Also on the plane was Buddy Holly's guitarist Tommy Allsup. But unlucky Allsup lost a coin toss to teen heartthrob Ritchie Valens and gave up his seat. The lucky winner, Ritchie Valens, was only 17 at the time. His rock and roll career had only begun 8 months earlier. Valens was from California and his real name was Richard Valenzuela, but the label asked him to shorten it down to Valens. Even though Valens died just as his career was getting off the ground, he's considered a forefather of Spanish-language rock thanks to his hit song La Bamba. Last but not least unluckiest is number 7, the Big Bopper. By far the oldest of the 3 musicians to die that night, the Big Bopper was actually only 28. You've probably heard his song Chantilly Lace. Originally, the 3rd seat on the airplane was meant to go to Waylon Jennings, but the Big Bopper convinced him to trade. Fatefully and finally, on the night of February 3rd, 1959, Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper got on a Beechcraft Bonanza and took off from an airfield in Iowa. The small plane was headed to North Dakota, but the weather was bad and the pilot was unqualified. As a result, they didn't go anywhere, and the plane crashed back to the ground in Iowa. All 3 singers were ejected from the plane on impact, but in the bad way. February 3rd, 1959 is now known as the day the music died. Along with Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash, number 8 on our list is a country music legend you're allowed to like and still feel cool. Her songs included Walkin' After Midnight and Crazy. Patsy Cline overcame poverty, a crappy marriage, a near-fatal car accident, and social barriers to become a hit singer. But the one thing she couldn't overcome was a single-engine aircraft flying full speed into the ground. On March 5th, 1963, her Piper Comanche crashed in bad weather. So there you go. Now, maybe if you start contemplating a career in rock and roll, you'll consider a safer mode of transportation between gigs. Like maybe a motorcycle or a toboggan? Good night!